is Valley News Live at 4.
We start this afternoon with new information on the high-risk search warrant that was served yesterday morning. Police say 4 individuals were detained and 1 was arrested as a part of a drugs investigation. Fargo police surrounded an apartment building on Amber Valley Parkway just before 7 a.m. They used a flashbang and set up a perimeter while they interviewed those involved. The FPD is not releasing the name of the arrested individual because they are a minor. We'll continue to follow this story and provide updates as we have them. In the meantime, sounds like we're in for a comfortable weekend. Let's take a look at that forecast with Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Hutch?
You know what? The weekend brings a little something for everybody. We've swept out the 90 to 100 degree temperatures we saw yesterday in the central and eastern part of North Dakota and right here in the valley. And right now we are between 10 and 20 degrees cooler than we were yesterday at this time across much of the area. Hey, skies remain clear, and as we look at those flags at the Dakota Magic Casino, some of us are still contending with some hair follicle challenges out there as that wind is gusting over 20 miles per hour for a few of us. Here's that cooler report: 71 Badette, 73 Hallock. So the coolest temperatures are up north, but they do swing all the way down into Fergus Falls, where it's 73 degrees. You see the dark red shades? Those are the 80s, and those have been swept mainly into South Dakota as we head into our evening. And there is not going to be much change as far as an increase in temperatures goes, and the satellite, completely quiet. 74 in Fargo in the 6 o'clock hour. Then we see temperatures fall fairly quickly as we go through the overnight hours. We're well into the 50s here in Fargo and in Grand Forks. Your hour-by-hour forecast for the weekend does include some excitement, though. I'll have details on exactly what I mean by that, because it's not thunder, but there's something fun, and we'll talk about it in a minute.
Well, I look forward to hearing that. In the meantime, great tailgating weekend.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Hutch. A man is under arrest following a DUI crash in Valley City. Police say just after midnight, 22-year-old Hunter Berg crashed into a flood wall, sending his passenger to the hospital. The passenger is expected to be okay. Berg is held on a Class C felony. Fargo police are still searching for a man considered armed and dangerous. Robin Heinonen is 31, 5'10", and about 180 pounds, with a distinct tattoo with the letters N and M on the right side of his face. He was last seen on August 22nd in the 4200 block of 9th Avenue South in Fargo. Police say he's wanted for terrorizing. If you see him, do not approach him. Call 911. NASA is getting ready for another attempt to launch its Artemis mission to the moon tomorrow after technical problems delayed Monday's liftoff. NASA believes a faulty sensor was to blame for the delayed trip, and they plan to ignore it during Saturday's countdown. So far, the weather is a go, and local tourism officials are expecting even more crowds for this launch. Once the rocket takes to space, NASA expects the mission to last just over a month.
If we launch tomorrow afternoon, we would land on October 11th. At 11:10 Pacific time. So that kind of gives you the duration, and what we would say is it's approximately 37 days to 38 days.
If tomorrow's attempt is unsuccessful, NASA could try again on Monday or Tuesday. After that, the rocket would have to be rolled back for some maintenance before the next opportunity in late September or October. President Biden addressed the nation from Philadelphia last night in a speech focusing on what he calls the battle for the soul of the nation. The president called out former President Donald Trump and his supporters numerous times and accused the Republican Party of being intimidated by them. Natalie Brandt has reports from the White House.
In a fiery primetime speech from Philadelphia, President Biden warned of what he says is a real threat to American democracy.
I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true.
The president called out former President Trump by name Thursday night and accused Trump's supporters of extremism.
MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election.
While President Biden said not all Republicans fall into this category, GOP leaders called the president's remarks divisive. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, speaking from President Biden's hometown of Scranton earlier Thursday, also took aim at the president's handling of the economy.
Fact, real income. What you take home after inflation and taxes is lower now than when Joe Biden took office.
The dueling speeches in a key battleground state come a little more than 2 months from midterm elections, with Labor Day weekend kicking off the final sprint to November.
Joe Biden is right. Democracy is on the ballot in November.
As your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me.
A new CBS News poll finds 72% of Americans believe democracy is under threat, a figure that has remained high since Trump supporters stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Topping the list of reasons why, influence of money in politics, and also the potential for political violence, which concerns most Americans across party lines. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, the White House.
Former President Trump is traveling to Pennsylvania this weekend for his first rally of the general election. President Biden will be in Pittsburgh on Labor Day. In the war in Ukraine, a convoy arrived at a Russian-controlled nuclear facility near the front lines yesterday. A small group of United Nations experts remains for a second day, checking on possible damage after explosions hit near the plant. It needs a constant supply of electricity to cool down spent nuclear fuel. Generators are being used to keep the power on, but once it runs out, it could create a chain reaction that becomes a global disaster.
If that is not cooled on a regular basis, it then creates what we call a meltdown.
Established a constant presence at the plant. Today, a Russian ambassador in Vienna said they were happy for 2 inspectors to remain there on a permanent basis. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden is asking Congress to provide another $13.7 billion in emergency funding to Ukraine as lawmakers are preparing to return to Washington. The new funding request is part of a larger spending package the White House is proposing. That package includes money to respond to COVID-19, monkeypox, and recent natural disasters. The U.S. already provided $40 billion in Ukraine funding earlier this year. The new billions would go toward equipment, intelligence support, and direct budgetary support for Ukraine. The Minnesota DNR has confirmed the invasive algae starry stonewort in Lake Bemidji. The algae can sit on the top of the water, making recreation difficult and creating a tough habitat for fish and other animals. Surveys are being conducted to determine the extent of the spread, and removal may be necessary. That could include pulling the algae or applying herbicides. Starry stonewort has now been confirmed in 22 water bodies in Minnesota. And when enjoying the lake this weekend, everyone is reminded to check for invasive species. Minnesota law requires people to clean boats, trailers, and equipment, drain all water, and leave drain plugs out during transport, and dispose of unwanted bait in the trash. But if you're planning a trip down to the cities this holiday weekend, you'll want to pay attention to this. Seasoned state fairgoers often have a routine and little tricks to maximize their experience. Now, reporter David Schumann went searching for the best life hacks to make your time at the Great Minnesota Get-Together as memorable and as stress-free as possible. Take a look.
Keep the kids happy. Rule number 1 at the fair for any parent.
It's just going to be a free-for-all.
Mary Beth's son, Beck, managed to pull some free Oreos because she got lucky and struck up a conversation with a vendor on break.
You don't know who you're sitting next to. You could be sitting next to Sweet Martha.
Can't have cookies without their partner in crime.
Grab your all-you-can-drink milk glass right away and then go and continue to go to that stand throughout the day.
That's a hack for staying cool, too. Huge priority at the fair.
Stick to the shade.
We got fans from the radio station.
You bet clothing makes a difference. Janet Van and her husband messed that part up.
Not black, that soaks it all in.
At least they have ways to get their son, Carter, through the day.
Our first hack was go get a toy so that he's not complaining.
Back to clothing, though, outfits on the kids can also be functional.
I specifically dressed him in bright colors in case he wandered away. I'm not where's my child?
That's just being resourceful, as is finding the best food with the shortest lines.
Get the gizmo. It's like a sub roll with crumbled Italian sausage and marinara sauce, cheese melted on top.
The fried pickle stand didn't have a lot of people there, which I was a little confused about because that's the best food at the fair.
Hacks to save money, though, harder to come by.
I come prepared that this is where my budget for the month is going.
Some people think the coupon book is kind of overrated or it's not really worth it, but you do actually get some pretty good deals.
Okay, we got one. David Schumann, WCCO 4 News.
And if you plan to travel by airplane, you could be in for a bumpier ride. According to UK researchers, climate change is affecting turbulence, and it may increase by 2- or 3-fold worldwide starting in 2050. However, they said that doesn't mean taking to the skies will be less safe, since airplanes are designed to handle the high winds. The Federal Aviation Administration reports turbulence is the top cause of injuries to passengers and staff in non-fatal accidents. According to the National Center for Atmospheric Research, turbulence causes around $500 million annually in injuries, damage, and delays. CVS pharmacies nationwide are offering the FDA and CDC authorized Pfizer and Moderna bivalent COVID-19 vaccine booster shots. The bivalent vaccines are more effective against COVID variants. The single-dose vaccine can be received at least 2 months from your last vaccine dose. CVS pharmacy locations will be receiving the boosters over the next few days and weeks, and because of limited supply, they are recommending making an appointment at CVS.com. Bison and Fighting Hawk football fans, get ready. NDSU and UND open their regular seasons tomorrow. The Bison are at home, and tickets are still available for the game against Drake. Buy them online, over the phone, or at the box office. And now, if you are planning on tailgating and don't have a reserved spot yet, the parking is $5. Single vehicles have a max of 2 spots. A vehicle with a trailer has a max of 4 spots. You can start lining up at 5 p.m. today along the south side of 17th Avenue North. UND opens the regular season on the road. The Fighting Hawks are at Nebraska tomorrow afternoon. We have exciting news to share as well here for you about this newscast. Starting on Monday, your 4 p.m. newscast will be a full hour on KVLY, leading right up to the Valley News Live at 5 o'clock. Dr. Phil will air from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Now, we thank you for the privilege of your time and for trusting us to be your source for news. This change will give us even more of an opportunity to report what you need to know. Later at 4 o'clock, what economists say about a new jobs report and whether it signals a recession.
And in weather, we do have quiet conditions across the valley, a little bit on the breezy side. North winds have ushered in some cooler temperatures, but we started the day near 70 degrees in Lakes Country. Temperatures didn't rise much over the morning temperatures in the low 70s. We've made it to 73 in Fergus Falls so far today. Blue skies and a 3-day weekend. What is the forecast? Details next.